Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, glories to Srila Prabhupada, glories to the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All glories to the devotees of the Sankirtan movement, and especially the members of the Prabhupada Disciples Association who are gathering weekly with us online to exchange our realizations and to hear and chant about the glories of Krishna from the pure devotee A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. This is a great opportunity for us as individuals to spark a revolution in the understanding of how to become Krishna conscious through the association of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda in his books, and through the association of his devoted servants in the Prabhupada Disciples Association. And as we move forward week after week, and by the way, I wanted to mention to everyone that we do have the Krishna Consciousness Movement YouTube channel, which is a facility for others to review the classes that we have been conducting for the last 6 months. And we have over 120 classes now, readings and discussions online for your reference and for future reference of other people that want to learn about Krishna consciousness according to the teachings of Srila Prabhupada as he presented them during his time with us on this planet. That was a great opportunity for many of us to get his personal association, and therefore we're still in a position to share that association, those pastimes, with all of the new Prabhupada disciples that are coming on board with us and are interested in becoming part of the mission based on Prabhupada's teachings in his Vani incarnation. So there are two types of association. There's Vapu, which is the personal association. Prabhupada actually stressed it was more important for us to associate with him in his Vani incarnation, because this allowed us to stay fixed on what is known as the transcendental platform of sound vibration. This yoga process of elevation of consciousness is not based on asanas and pranayamas or any other yoga practices in this Kali Yuga, but it's based simply on these principles which we follow with our group. And those that do take this up with us are guaranteed to make advancement in Krishna consciousness, because this is the proper way to water the seed of devotional service, which is like a plant. Lord Chaitanya compared it to a plant. The seed is sown and it's watered through this simple system that is being presented to the world through this Prabhupada Association group. And we'll discuss that moving forward in the coming weeks, how we're going to expand this mission with the use of transcendental literature So, as you know, we have been reading from Prabhupada's original diary. Here it is. The 1966 New York Journal. And there's a tremendous amount of insight that you can gain by seeing how Prabhupada was using his time. Because really, the most valuable asset that we have is our time. And the best use of our time is to engage it in the Sankirtan process. And so Prabhupada gives the highest example of that. And we're going to read today the April highlights of 1966 from his diary. And then over the coming weeks, we'll go through each particular page and dissect the service that he was executing in order to realize the order of his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj. Very important for all the students here to get this historical perspective on Krishna consciousness, right from the pure devotee. So here we go. It's April. Now, I wanted to highlight this point that Prabhupada has divided his activity into three sections. One was the distribution of his books, which is a key part for our work. The next is the classes in the kirtans. Unfortunately, we can only enjoy kirtan with our group virtually right now through the internet, but it's still something that you can relish. And the letters and contacts, his constant reaching out to new people and encouraging them to help him take up the service of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati through his prompting and requests. So here we have books. So number one, Mr. Pop came to see me. He saw the books. He took one copy of the first part and paid $6. So on April 4th, went to see Mr. Bogart, his publisher, Mr. Lawton, interested in publishing Srimad Bhagavatam. Mr. Bogart gave typewriter and tape recorder. Typewriter, good. Tape recorder, defective. And on the 10th, today I'm working on Koan's big royal typewriter. It is very good for hard working. Elsie on the 14th paid $31.50 for books. So he's got $31.50 and 6. So total $37.50 up to the middle of the month from book sales. Books delivered to Elsie, 2 sets of books for sale in charge of Paul. 1 book on the 17th due to Elsie was delivered via the studio book sale, $10. $47.50. To income a book on the 26th, $5. So he's keeping track very carefully of money coming in and going out in terms of book sales. Classes and kirtans. On the 1st in the evening, a meeting experimentally held at St. Paul's Place, 94 Bowery Place. The attendance was 4 people. Mr. Green paid only $5. On the 2nd, met with Yolanda and Cynthia in Ananda Ashram, passed the night and held kirtan. Kirtan was appreciated. On the 3rd, Dr. Mishra gave me a tape recorder which is not working. So this is, okay. On the 4th, came to Paul's place. There was a meeting and kirtan, Harikatha, no income. On the 5th, the whole day was at Paul's place. In the evening, we held kirtan together. He is hopeful. On the 6th, that evening, there was a meeting. There were 7 boys and girls. All attended the meeting carefully. Some brought rice, atta, and fruits. There was no collection. On April 7th, I cooked food and dined with Paul in Sakar. Paul promises to organize. He attended the morning class punctually. On the 8th, the whole day and night also, I stayed at Paul's. Evening, there was a meeting. 7 boys and girls attended. Contributions were $5 and some fruits also. On the 11th in the evening, there was a meeting. 7 gentlemen attended. The collection was $5. On the 13th in the evening, ladies and gentlemen attended the meeting. The income was $1. Collection in the meeting on the 15th was $4. On the 16th, Yolanda took me to the ashram, and there was kirtan in the evening. On the 20th evening meeting at 7 to 9 p.m., only 4 persons attended. The collection, $4. In the evening, 5 gentlemen attended. Contribution was $4. This was on the 22nd of April. And on the 25th evening, a meeting was held. So 20th, 21st, 22nd, 25th. Contribution income, $4.60. On the 27th, another meeting. Evening, there was a meeting. 6 ladies and a gentleman attended. Income was $5. On the 28th, I brought the things from 72nd Street to Paul's loft in the Bowery. On the 29th, there was a meeting. 5 gentlemen attended. The contribution was $14. Today, on the 30th, Paul and self observed a Ekadasi. In the afternoon, we both went to Ananda Ashram. So quite a few meetings and classes. Lots of reach out, pushing forward. Letters and contacts. Received one letter from Govinda Maharaj. On the 4th, today I've received letter of State Department regarding visit to the President. On the 6th, received one letter from Library of Congress, Washington. It is good news. On the 8th, saw Elsie to inquire about the Library of Congress card. Not very encouraging. On April 12th, today, I had been to New India House. Mr. Mukherjee of Passport Department kept my undertaking and passport for necessary action. Will return on Monday, the 18th. On the 13th, today, I received one letter from the chief assistant of the governor of New York. Amazing, amazing. Prabhupada is amazing. On the 18th, today, I took delivery of passport from New India House. He renewed to a period of 2 years more, up to the 9th of June, 1968. I went to see Mr. Bogart, but he was not there. I left one note for him. On the 24th, received 2 letters at 72nd, one from Vrindavan and the other from the Secretary President. Talked with Miss Sulan Richter. On the 25th, I saw Marine office. Free pass for Paul denied. Settled to postpone return to India. One letter from Tirtha Maharaj Vrindavan, and Robert's letter replied. And on the 27th, one letter sent to Srimati Sumati Maharajji requesting free passage for Paul. On the 29th, I met Mr. Pritchard's secretary for informing the vacation of room. Talked with Banerjee. He has not yet sent the report. So that's the summary for April at the beginning of the book. And then you'll see that we'll carry on. We'll review it again, carefully analyze it, and move forward in our service to Srila Prabhupada in 2023. We're going to move forward now with the chanting of Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari by Srila Prabhupada to introduce the class. And after that, His Grace Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, who just returned from a long journey in our work to set up the Hare Krishna Society properly, will conduct our reading and discussion from the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad-gītā As It Is, unedited version by Srila Prabhupada. All glories to the Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Amaspat Paramahansa Parivrajaga-ācārya Sattvaresvara Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki Jai Nāma-ācārya Shri Haridas Thakur ki Jai Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivāsari Gaur Bhaktamani ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Mokh Bhavanath Sam Khund Radha Khund Girivardhan ki Jai Vrindavan Dham ki Jai Navadvip Dham ki Jai Ganga Mai की जय, जमुना माई की जय, गुरु द्वारका धाम की जय, स्वामी तो भक्तविंद की जय। ऑल ग्लोरी टू द असम्बली, ऑल ग्लोरी टू द असम्बली। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
ओम अज्ञानातिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवंश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगुणा रघुनाथं अन्वितं तं सजीवं सद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादं सहगुणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्तकाञ्चन घोरङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वञ्चकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Welcome everyone to this reading and discussion on Bhagavad-gītā As It Is. We'll be reading from the original 1972 Macmillan edition, the non-edited, non-adulterated version. All synonyms, translations, and purports by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, Founder-Ācārya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Krishna Consciousness Movement. Today we will commence our reading of chapter 9, text number 1. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Idam tute guhyatamam pravakshyami anasuyave jnanam vijnana sahitam yajñatva mukshase shubhat. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Idam, this, to, but, te, unto you, guhyatamam, most confidential, pravakshyami, I am speaking, anasuyave, to the non-envious, jnanam, knowledge, vijnana, realized knowledge, sahitam, with, yat, which, Jnatva, knowing, mokshase, be released, ashubhat, from this miserable material existence. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Lord said, My dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most secret wisdom, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence. Purport. As a devotee hears more and more about the Supreme Lord, he becomes enlightened. This hearing process is recommended in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The messages of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are full of potencies, and these potencies can be realized if topics regarding the Supreme Godhead are discussed amongst devotees. This cannot be achieved by the association of mental speculators or academic scholars, for it is realized knowledge. The devotees are constantly engaged in the Supreme Lord's service. The Lord understands the mentality and sincerity of a particular living entity who is engaged in Krishna consciousness, and gives him the intelligence to understand the science of Krishna in the association of the devotees. Discussion of Krishna is very potent, and if a fortunate person has such association and tries to assimilate the knowledge, then he will surely make advancement towards spiritual realization. Lord Krishna, in order to encourage Arjuna to higher and higher elevation in his potent service, describes in this 9th chapter matters more confidential than any he has already disclosed. The very beginning of Bhagavad-gītā, the 1st chapter, is more or less an introduction to the rest of the book. And in the 2nd and 3rd chapters, the spiritual knowledge described is called confidential. Topics discussed in the 7th and 8th chapters are specifically related to devotional service, and because they bring enlightenment in Krishna consciousness, they are called more confidential. But the matters which are described in the 9th chapter deal with unalloyed pure devotion. Therefore, this is called the most confidential. One who is situated in the most confidential knowledge of Krishna is naturally transcendental. He therefore has no material pangs, although he is in the material world. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it is said that although one who has a sincere desire to render loving service to the Supreme Lord is situated in the conditional state of material existence, he is to be considered liberated. Similarly, we shall find in the Bhagavad-gītā 10th chapter that anyone who is engaged in that way is a liberated person. Now, this verse has specific significance. Knowledge, idam jnanam, refers to pure devotional service, which consists of 9 different activities: hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, worshiping, praying, obeying, maintaining friendship, and surrendering everything. By the practice of these 9 elements of devotional service, one is elevated to spiritual consciousness, Krishna consciousness. At the time when one's heart is cleared of the material contamination, one can understand the science of Krishna. Simply to understand that a living entity is not material is not sufficient. That may be the beginning of spiritual realization, but one should recognize the difference between activities of the body and spiritual activities by which one understands that he is not the body. In the 7th chapter, we have already discussed the opulent potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his different energies, the inferior and superior nature, and all this material manifestation. Now, in chapter 9 and 10, the glories of the Lord will be delineated. The Sanskrit word anasuyave in this verse is also very significant. Generally, the commentators even if they are highly scholarly, are all envious of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even the most erudite scholars write on Bhagavad-gītā very inaccurately. Because they are envious of Krishna, their commentaries are useless. The commentaries given by devotees of the Lord are bona fide. No one can explain Bhagavad-gītā or give perfect knowledge of Krishna if he's envious. One who criticizes the character of Krishna without knowing him is a fool. So such commentaries should be very carefully avoided. For one who understands that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the pure and transcendental personality, these chapters will be very beneficial. Now I'll read part of text number 2. It's a very, very long purport. I'll just read part of the purport, then we'll have our discussion. Text number 2. Raja Vidya Raja Goshyam Pavitram Idvatuttamam Pratyaksha-vagamam dharmyam susukam kartum avyayam. Raja Vidya, the king of education. Raja Goshyam, the king of confidential knowledge. Pavitram, the purest. Idam, this. Uttamam, transcendental. Pratyaksha, directly experience. Avagamam, understood. Dharmyam, the principle of religion. Susukam, very happy. Kartum, to execute. Avyayam, everlasting. Translation. This knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge because it gives direct perception of the self by realization. It is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting, and it is joyfully performed. Purport. This chapter of Bhagavad-gītā is called the King of Education because it is the essence of all doctrines and philosophies explained before. There are 7 principal philosophers in India: Gautama, Kanada, Kapila, Yajnavalkya, Sandilya, Vaishvanara, and finally, Vyasadeva, the author of the Vedanta Sutra. So there is no dearth of knowledge in the field of philosophy or transcendental knowledge. Now the Lord says that this 9th chapter is the king of all such knowledge, the essence of all knowledge that can be derived from the study of the Vedas and different kinds of philosophy. It is the most confidential because confidential or transcendental knowledge involves understanding the difference between the soul and the body. And the king of all confidential knowledge culminates in devotional service. Generally, people are not educated in this confidential knowledge. They are educated in external knowledge. As far as ordinary education is concerned, people are involved with so many departments: politics, sociology, physics, chemistry, mathematics, astronomy, engineering, etc. There are so many departments of knowledge all over the world and many huge universities, but there is unfortunately no university or educational institution where the science of the spirit soul is instructed. Yet, the soul is the most important part of this body. Without the presence of the soul, the body has no value. Still, people are placing great stress on the bodily necessities of life, not caring for the vital soul. The Bhagavad-gītā, especially from the 2nd chapter on, stresses the importance of the soul. In the very beginning, the Lord says that this body is perishable and that the soul is not perishable. That is a confidential part of knowledge. Simply knowing that spirit soul is different from this body and that its nature is immutable, indestructible, and eternal. but that gives no positive information about the soul. Sometimes people are under the impression that the soul is different from the body, and then when the body is finished or one is liberated from the body, the soul remains in a void and becomes impersonal. But actually, that is not the fact. How can the soul, which is so active within this body, be inactive after being liberated from the body? It is always active. If it is eternal, then it is eternally active. And its activities in the spiritual kingdom are the most confidential part of spiritual knowledge. These activities of the spirit soul are therefore indicated here as constituting the king of all knowledge, the most confidential part of all knowledge. This knowledge is the purest form of all activities, as it is explained in Vedic literature. In the Padma Purana, man's sinful activities have been analyzed and are shown to be the results of sin after sin. Those who are engaged in fruitive activities are entangled in different stages and forms of sinful reaction. For instance, when the seed of a particular tree is sown, the tree does not appear immediately to grow. It takes some time. It is first a small sprouting plant, then it assumes the form of a tree, then it flowers, bears fruits, and when it is complete, the flowers and fruits are enjoyed by persons who have sown the seed of the tree. Similarly, a man performs a sinful act, and like a seed, it takes time to fructify. There are different stages. The sinful action may have already stopped within the individual, but the results or the fruit of that sinful action are still enjoyed. There are sins which are still in the form of a seed, and there are others which are already fructified. There are sins which are still in the form of the seed, and there are others which are already fructified and are giving us fruit, which we are enjoying as distress and pain, as explained in the 20th verse of the 7th chapter. So we'll stop here for now. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master, unto our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, who has opened my eyes, who has opened our eyes from the darkness of ignorance with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. Namaum Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Bhagavad-vandanam Khadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sarkara Yuktam Kadatihi Visheshataham Adadana-strinam danter idam yache punah punah Srimad Rupa Padam Bhoja Dhulisyam Janma Janmani Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So these two beginning verses of the 9th chapter of Bhagavad-gītā are very important. Specifically the Sanskrit word in the first verse, where Krishna described Pravakshyami Anasuyave. that I will be speaking to you, I shall impart this to you, because you are never envious of me. Lord Krishna is stating to Arjuna that because you are not malicious, you are not envious, you are not resentful, therefore I shall instruct you this knowledge. Now the question may be, well, what is this knowledge going to do? And it's described, Jnana Vijnana Sahitam Yajñatva Mukshase Shubhat. I shall impart to you this most secret wisdom, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence. Now, this is a very important point, because we see in the material world so many living entities, so many human beings especially, are very busy trying to make arrangements for the comforts of the body. They're working very hard. They're engaging in so many different activities, struggling. Krishna describes later on in the Bhagavad-gītā how the living entities are struggling with the material senses. The word is karshati in Sanskrit. It is a big struggle. We see in the material world so many activities going on. People are working hard, trying to improve their personal situation, but yet we see that despite so much endeavor, there is still so much suffering. Why is that? Why so much suffering? This is the difference between a liberated soul and a conditioned soul. A conditioned soul is subject to the miseries of material existence. A liberated soul is freed from the miseries of material existence because of taking shelter of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We see in the Bhagavad-gītā how Krishna described his ultimate insurance policy. Ananyas chintayanto mam yejanaha paryupashate tesham nitya viyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. For those who are constantly devoted to me, I protect what they have and carry what they lack. Krishna promises that I will protect my devotee. In another place in the Bhagavad-gītā, Krishna tells Arjuna, Name bhakta pranashyati. Tell it to the whole world, Arjuna, that my devotee, Name bhakta pranashyati, will never perish. You're all familiar with the study in the Mahabharata, how Draupadi was attempted to be disrobed by the Kurus in a very disrespectful way. The Pandavas had engaged in a game of dice. They had lost their kingdom, they had lost their weapons, and finally they waged their wife, Draupadi. And Draupadi, when the attempt was made to disrobe her, she prayed to Krishna. Pratinyata vagovinda name bhakta pranashyati iti samsmritya pranam sandarayamyaham. It is described in the Mahabharata that Draupadi prayed to Krishna that I maintain my life at every breath by remembering your promise, name bhakta pranashyati, that you always protect your devotees. Now what happened? When they tried to disrobe her, Krishna produced unlimited amount of sari. They could not disrobe her. But on account of that disrespect to this most pious, this most saintly devotee, the entire Kuru dynasty was finished, annihilated. There's another story in the Mahabharata. Duryodhana had received a great rishi, Maitreya Rishi, who came to visit him to give him advice, to basically advise him that just give the Pandavas some villages and don't engage in this nonsense activities of harassing them. Don't do that. And Duryodhana laughed very loudly and slapped his thigh. And Maitreya Rishi cursed him, says, one day you will die struck. Your thigh will be your demise. And we saw at the end of the Mahabharata, Bhima engaged in a big fight with Duryodhana with his club and killed him, struck him on the thigh. This was the result of the curse of Maitreya Rishi. Now, what does this have to do here? Well, this has to do basically that by hearing about Krishna, by hearing about the message of Krishna and his activities with his devotees, his qualities, his form, his transcendental nectar, his abode of Goloka, Vrindavan, and Vaikuntha, one becomes free from the influence of the material energy. Prabhupada nicely describes in this purport what happens if one hears the message of Krishna. At the end of in the third paragraph, Prabhupada describes one who is situated in the most confidential of Krishna is naturally transcendental. He therefore has no material pangs, although he is in the material world. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it is said that although one who has a sincere desire to render loving service to the Supreme Lord is situated in the conditional state of material existence, is to be considered liberated. Similarly, we shall find in the Bhagavad-gītā 10th chapter that anyone who is engaged in that way is a liberated person. This is a very important point because the process of bhakti is very auspicious, even in the beginning, even for neophytes or beginning practitioners. Immediately there's great benefit. We see in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the second canto, in one purport where Prabhupada describes that when one engages in devotional service, even for the neophyte, he is imperceptibly liberated. Although he may not be able to comprehend or perceive how he is liberated, that's because he is in the process of bhakti. And the process, if one follows the process according to the instruction of the bona fide authorized Acharya, then one will get transcendental benefit. Now, why do we use that term, bona fide authorized Acharya? Because there are specific methods of engaging in bhakti. It is not that one can manufacture his own interpretation or concoct his own invention of what is bhakti. Srila Prabhupada was an empowered Acharya, and all the methods and ways and means and rules and regulations which he prescribed are all given by Lord Chaitanya. This is like Lord Chaitanya speaking to us through His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. So what one has to do is to try to follow as best as we can. But that does not mean that one has to manufacture different interpretations. We saw this after the departure of Srila Prabhupada in 1977. Different over-intelligent individuals influenced by Maya concocted that the method of Samkirtan, which had been given by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, the chanting, the distribution of books, that had to be changed for making greater profit for whatever plan and scheme they may have. So they invented and manufactured different new ways of so-called Samkirtan, which has been referred to by many devotees as scam kirtan. Different methods which were not prescribed or given by the authorized Acharya Srila Prabhupada. And the result was very disastrous. The result was not very good. Then we saw after that some over-intelligent persons thought that they could embark on a grammatical embellishment program and change the original books of Srila Prabhupada. Again, the result has not been very good. So one cannot try to be over-intelligent and think of himself as knowing better than the spiritual master. Anyone who is familiar with the purports of Srila Prabhupada knows that many times Srila Prabhupada described Guru Shul Naramati Yasyave Narakisa. Prabhupada would often quote from the Padma Purana, where it's explained, if one thinks of the spiritual master as an ordinary person, then he's a fit candidate for the hellish regions. Yasyave Naraki. Now, it's important to note that in the 8th canto of the Bhagavatam, in one purport, Prabhupada says, one should stop thinking the spiritual master an ordinary man. Well, why is Prabhupada saying that one should stop? That means that Prabhupada had observed that some people close to him were thinking the spiritual master to be an ordinary man. Otherwise, why is he mentioning that? There are numerous purports which Srila Prabhupada explains. In one place, Prabhupada describes that even though the spiritual master may act like an ordinary man, a disciple should never think the spiritual master an ordinary man. And this is very important. Just like Krishna says in this verse, Pravakshyami anasuyave, that I will instruct you, Arjuna. Why? Because you're not envious. So similarly, one should not become envious of the position of the spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. We have to understand Prabhupada is not just a regular devotee or just some sadhu who came on a boat at the right time at the right place. That Prabhupada is much more than that. Prabhupada is a Nitya Siddha, an eternally liberated soul who's been sent here by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. A few weeks ago, we were discussing, as part of the 8th chapter of Bhagavad-gītā, how often Lord Krishna comes in the day of Brahma. And we saw in one lecture, Prabhupada explains that Krishna comes only once in 8,600,000,000 years. And Lord Chaitanya only comes once. So this is a very special position, to be born in this Kali Yuga, at this particular time when Lord Krishna himself, the original personality of Godhead, has appeared at the end of the Dwapara Yuga, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in 1486 AD in Kali Yuga to show how to practice the science of devotional service. This very unique, special time. And Srila Prabhupada is that ambassador of Lord Chaitanya, who brought this message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu all over the world. He was predicted. Srila Prabhupada was predicted by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, who took the message of Lord Chaitanya all over the world, who introduced the Maha Mantra all over the world. It is none other than Srila Prabhupada, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. So a devotee should be very grateful to Srila Prabhupada that he's left us all these literatures and the bona fide process of devotional service. Several times I've been asked over the years, why is there so much division amongst various devotees? Why is there a conflict? Why is there discord? Well, one explanation is given by Krishna here, that if you're not envious of me, I shall give you the knowledge. Prabhupada can give the knowledge to anybody. Are we willing to hear? If one is not envious of the spiritual master, then one can hear very nicely. Mold his life in such a way that we'll develop a taste for hearing about Krishna, the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. We have often discussed in our various presentations how the great devotee Srinath Chakravarti composed a verse summarizing the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, and he praised the Srimad Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanamamalam, that the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad-gītā, this is the topmost scriptural evidence, the topmost mode of evidence, very exalted literature, very important literature. And we see here Srila Prabhupada is explaining, now this first verse has specific significance. Knowledge, idam jnanam, refers to pure devotional service, which consists of 9 different activities: hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, worshiping, praying, obeying, maintaining friendship, and surrendering everything. By the practice of these 9 elements of devotional service, one is elevated to spiritual consciousness, Krishna consciousness. At the time when one's heart is clear of the material contamination, one can understand the science of Krishna. Simply to understand that a living entity is not material is not sufficient. That may be the beginning of spiritual realization, but one should recognize the difference between activities of the body and spiritual activities by which one understands that he is not the body. So this is very significant here. Prabhupada is explaining the power of the process of bhakti. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam. The 9-fold practice of devotional service. This is very important. And this has to be done without personal motivation. So many times we've discussed this point. The desire for profit, adoration, and distinction has no place on the path of pure bhakti, of pure devotion. One should perform simply for satisfying the spiritual master and Krishna. So let me shut up now and leave the floor to such good devotees like Ram Raghavai and others, so we can have some good, interesting discussion. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Yaśodā-nandana, for your wonderful explanation of these verses from the Bhagavad-gītā As It Is. And I wanted to mention to you, Prabhu, how Prabhupada states here in the purport, there is no dearth of knowledge in the field of this philosophy. Now, the word dearth means no scarcity of such information. But unfortunately, in the material society, in the modern Kali Yuga, there is no interest in these subjects. So there are so many magazines, there are so many books, there are so many reports online about all kinds of activity, but nothing related to the transcendental message of Krishna and Lord Chaitanya, despite the fact that there is huge amount of transcendental literature that's available. And for us, we're very fortunate, everyone, because we do have a large library of books that Srila Prabhupada provided for us, namely the Bhagavad-gītā, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Nectar of Devotion, the Nectar of Instruction, all kinds of different literature that he labored to produce in a short period of time during his presence here in the material world, in the Western world here. It is a fact that people live only on the mental plane. This is the state of the modern society. One giant mental plane. And people are generally interested only in fruit of action. So no matter who you talk to or who you deal with, it's going to be something about a temporary fruit of action that they're trying to accomplish to get money, to be successful. And Prabhupada has revealed to us, in the grand scheme of things, this has no real value. It is simply a waste of time. The science of the soul and God is found here in the Bhagavad-gītā, and the importance of the study of the Gita and these other literatures is key to the proper use of the human form of life. In the Gita, we learn that God, Krishna, is living within everyone's heart, that God is omnipresent. Those who are serious take up the path of self-realization, not a fruit of work. In the Gita, in the 10th chapter, there is a verse which is very important. And Prabhupada mentions simply to, as Yashoda had referred, simply to understand that a living entity is not material is not sufficient. That is the beginning of spiritual life, but in the, we'll go to this very informative verse, text 9 of chapter 10. And there's a brief explanation here, very concise explanation of how to use time. Matchita madgata prana bodhayanta parasparam katayantascha mam nicham tishanti cha ramanti cha. And we'll go right to the translation, thank you. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me, their lives are surrendered to me, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss, enlightening one another and conversing about me. Purport. So we'll read briefly the purport because I had a chance to review it. It very concisely explains the business of a devotee. Pure devotees, those characteristics are mentioned here, engage themselves fully in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Their minds cannot be diverted from the lotus feet of Krishna. Their talks are solely on the transcendental subjects. The symptoms of the pure devotees are described in this verse specifically. Devotees of the Supreme Lord are 24 hours daily engaged in glorifying the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. Now we're reading the diaries of Srila Prabhupada. Turn your microphone off, please. We're reading the diaries of Srila Prabhupada, and in the diaries, we're seeing that he is fully absorbed in 24 hours a day in spreading Krishna consciousness. Their hearts and souls are constantly submerged in Krishna, and they take pleasure in discussing him with other devotees. In the preliminary stage of devotional service, they relish the transcendental pleasure from the service itself, and in the mature stage, they are always situated in love of God. So gradually progressing. Once situated in that transcendental position, once they can realize that highest perfection which is exhibited by the Lord in his abode. Lord Chaitanya likens transcendental devotional service to the sowing of a seed in the heart of a living entity. There are innumerable living entities traveling throughout the different planets of the universe, and out of them, there are a few who are fortunate enough to meet a pure devotee and get the chance to understand devotional service. That's all of us. Just realize that. That is all of us. We have met the pure devotee. This devotional service is just like a seed, and if it is sown in the heart of a living entity, and if he goes on hearing and chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, that seed fructifies just as the seed of a tree fructifies with regular watering. The spiritual planet of devotional service gradually grows and grows until it penetrates the covering of the material universe and enters into the Brahmajyoti effulgence in the spiritual sky. And you can carry on reading this purport on your own and getting a full understanding of how this process goes forward. And finally, in text 10, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam upayanti te. To those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me, and then out of compassion for them, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. Because God is present within our hearts, he reveals this understanding of who we are by the mercy of the pure devotee of Krishna, Srila Prabhupada. Yaśodā, if you could please further elaborate.
Very important points. I'm going to read from a lecture from Srila Prabhupada, a Bhagavad-gītā lecture on this verse in Vrindavan on April 17th, 1975. April 17th, 1975. This is page 202, 203 of the actual verse, the collected lecture. It is explained, therefore a devotee is more merciful than Krishna. Krishna does not speak to the demons. Unless you are one who is bhakta, just like Bhagavad-gītā was spoken to Arjuna. Bhakto sime sakacheti. Krishna never speaks. Krishna was very strict, but the devotees, Krishna says, Yayimam paramam guhyam mad bhaktishu abhidashyati. About Bhagavad-gītā it says, one who speaks this confidential knowledge amongst the bhaktas, he recommends the bhaktas. But the devotees, they are so merciful, they go to the abhakta, transgressing the order of Krishna because they are so merciful. All right, Krishna has rejected them, let me try. This is the position of a bhakta. They are not only non-envious to God, but they are also unenvious. Therefore, their name is Karunikaha. Karunikaha, most merciful. The described, what is that? Titikshabaha Karunikaha Suridaha Sarvabhutanam. Devotees are always tortured by the demons. They, the demons, are prepared to torture even Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and great devotees also. So they, the devotees, tolerate all these tortures. Therefore, the devotees are described as Titikshabaha. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also teaches, Trinadapi Sunichena, Tarorapi Sayishnuna. A devotee should learn this shloka of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that he should be tolerant more than the trees. Karunikaha. And they take the risk of preaching amongst the demons, non-devotees, because they are Karunikaha, very merciful. More merciful than Krishna. More merciful than Krishna. Krishna says, don't speak this Bhagavad-gītā to the non-devotees, because non-devotees will not accept. Krishna says, Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. Who will accept unless he's a devotee? The Mayavadi, Karmi, Jnani, Yogi, they cannot accept. They're envious. I am Krishna, I am God. Why I shall surrender to Krishna? Why shall I surrender? They're envious. I am Krishna, I am God. Why I shall surrender to Krishna? Why shall I accept Krishna as God? This is the position of the Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami. Therefore, you will find so many yogis. They can play jugglery, magic, but they are not devotees. They will not surrender to Krishna. That is there. So such persons cannot understand Krishna. They cannot understand the science of Krishna. They cannot understand because Krishna does not disclose himself to the non-devotees. So by their own attempt, however big yogi or jnani or karmi he may be, he cannot understand Krishna. Krishna discloses, reveals himself to la anasuyave, one who is not envious. And that is devotee. Anasuyave means devotee, who is not envious of Krishna. Others, they are envious, karmi, jnani, yogi. The karmis will say that you work hard and get the result and enjoy. Why are you going to the temple to pray? This is the philosophy of the communists. Why should you go to the church? Why should you go to the temple? Forget all these things. Work hard, earn money, and enjoy life. But that is demonic. Because there is envy against God, there are demons. So the science of God or science of Krishna, Krishna Tattva, is never disclosed or revealed amongst the non-devotee demons. It can be revealed, it can be understood by a person like Arjuna. Therefore it is said, Anasuyave, Jnanam Teham Pravakshyami. Anasuyave, this very word, we should never be envious to Krishna and his devotee. If you think that I'm envious to the devotees, but I'm not envious to Krishna. No. Krishna does not accept that kind of business. First of all, you should be non-envious to the devotee. Mat bhakta pujabhyadikaha. If you're envious to my devotee, and if you become a devotee, that is not. That is stated that one who is directly devotee of Krishna is not devotee. One who is devotee through his devotee is devotee. This philosophy you should learn. You cannot say, but why shall I go through Guru or through Vaishnava to Krishna? I can go directly. I'm so qualified. No, you are not qualified. If you jump over like that, that is not. That is. In Bengal it is said, Onardin ke gashka. There is grass before the horse. If you think that I shall jump over the horse and eat the grass, that is not possible. So one should be devotee first of all. Tad vijnanartam sagurumeva bigachet. We must approach a bona fide guru in order to understand the science of Krishna. Abhigachet. This I've explained several times. So anasuyave. If you want to learn Krishna, then you should be very much humble and submissive to Krishna and his devotee, anasuyave. So in this way, Srila Prabhupada gives so many wonderful comments, additional comments on this transcendental verse of Bhagavad-gītā, very special verse. Hare Krishna.
Ram Raghava has his hand up. I believe he has something to add to the discussion. Ram Raghava, how are you? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Please, everyone, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I had a comment and a question. First of all, I just wanted to thank for the wonderful class and elucidation and background information that you both have provided. My wife Eunice has especially appreciated the tidbits of Prabhupada's diary of how he struggled and how he was so devoted, completely devoted to Krishna. And Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu was such a wonderful class. I appreciated especially the point you made about one not thinking of the spiritual master of Srila Prabhupada as an ordinary person. And I just wanted to add also that Srila Prabhupada, in his humility, he considered things such as in the beginning days when he had to stay with other people, when he kept his food in the same fridge as other people's meat, he considered that not good, but that was out of his humility. That's the kind of humility that we should understand Srila Prabhupada had. And also, he mentioned in his books sometimes that he had to arrange for the marriage of some of his disciples, but that he had to do that even as a sannyasi, because ordinarily a sannyasi does not get involved in marriages. But he mentioned that in order to help his disciples, he arranged those things in the beginning because it was a matter of necessity to help his disciples. So that's very important points. And then the question I had was if you could please clarify something that we read. The last part of the purport that you read, it says, there are others which are already fructified and are giving us fruit, which we are enjoying as distress and pain, as explained in the 20th verse of the 7th chapter. But in the 20th verse of the 7th chapter, I can't make that connection. So if you could please comment on that.
Yaśodā, please.
Could you maybe rephrase the question, please?
Yes, please. In the last part of the last paragraph that you read, it says that which we are enjoying as distress and pain, as explained in the 20th verse of the 7th chapter. But the 20th verse of the 7th chapter reads, let me see if I can find it. Reads, those whose minds are distorted by material distress, by material desires, surrender unto demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. So I can't make the connection between that last sentence in the purport that we read today and the 20th verse as it says in the purport.
Well, basically, the process is not very complicated. The process that Prabhupada has given is very systematic and easy to follow if we follow the proper way. In other words, whatever may be unclear to our minds is always explained by Srila Prabhupada in various other places. Just like we read the verse from the Bhagavad-gītā or Srimad Bhagavatam, and there are so many additional or supplementary explanations by Srila Prabhupada in his lectures and his various letters and everything else. So basically, we have to dive very deep and go deeper and deeper to understand the meaning. Something which may seem unclear can be very clear if we hear on this topic. For example, if you take the topic of Bhakti Lata Bij, or the seed of devotional service. Now, this is discussed originally in the Chaitanya Charitamrita in chapter 19 in the instructions of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Rupa Goswami. And what happens is that if you take the words Bhakti Lata Bij, or seed of devotional service, or seed of bhakti, and you put that into some of these search programs, and you look at different lectures and you see the depth, the wealth of explanation that Prabhupada is giving on all these different topics. In other words, Prabhupada doesn't leave anything unclear. Everything is clear, but sometimes in one specific purport, just like you pointed out, it may not seem clear to our mind, but if we make the effort, it's just like, in medicine. Let's say a high school students, in high school, when I was in high school in Canada, we had to study some biology courses, and you study some anatomy courses. Now, this kind of topic that's being discussed to high school students is not quite as advanced that you will get in university. And that also, in the beginning of university, when you're going to take a medical course to become a physician, there's going to be much more detailed anatomy sessions and biology classes and everything. It goes deeper and deeper and deeper, so that the person who will study this eventually will get a full-fledged understanding. It's like I was talking to a dentist recently. I said, how many years of study do you have to do before you can do this kind of dental surgery? It says, well, quite a few. You have to do to finish your high school, 4 years of university, then you have to do several years of specialized training in dentistry, then I get again some additional training. So it like that, as devotees, if we take any subject, just like you raise a subject, if you go into any of these programs like PrabhupadaBooks.com or the Prabhupada Folio, and you type in a few of these and take the time, because I know sometimes it takes time to get all of this information. And it's quite amazing the way that Srila Prabhupada describes these various topics. It's astounding, the depth of information, the depth of precise analysis that Prabhupada gives on any of these topics. That's what I can respectfully point out.
Thank you.
I hope it helps.
Haribol. Vinkat Prabhu, we've got a couple of questions here. We'll go to Shreya's question first, and then to Nityananda's question in Vrindavan. Vinkat Prabhu, could you explain what this question is for us, just to clarify it? Shreya's question.
Shreya, Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
What's she really asking here?
please can you explain, since Srila Prabhupada is accessible only through his books, who is a guru in current times to serve him? Who can we serve as a guru in current times, since Srila Prabhupada is only available in his books? That's the question. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the question.
Okay, that's fair. And we'll have Jonas Priya also give an answer in Hawaii, but I just wanted to mention that the Siksha, there is a Vartma Padarshika Guru, there's a Siksha Guru, there's a Diksha Guru system that we follow. And there are the servants of the pure devotee, his disciples, who are propagating the mission of Srila Prabhupada. And of servant of the devotees of the Lord, and then your service can be transferred to the pure devotee. So Prabhupada, I wanted to clarify, is accessible only through his books. This term only is limiting in a sense. It depends how you understand it. But Prabhupada is accessible through his books, through his lectures, through his thousands of letters. This is a transcendental process. And if you absorb yourself, Shreya, in this process, then you'll develop a relationship with our Guru, Srila Prabhupada, on a very high transcendental level, because he made everything available to us in this way. A lot of people do not study these subjects, but they profess themselves to be expert in this field. And this has caused a great deal of chaos in his mission. Could you, Jonas Priya, maybe you could give an explanation as well in Hawaii. I hope you're there.
Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Please accept my humble obeisances. As always, thank you so much for giving us so much nectar. Yes, well, Prabhupada left instructing gurus. It's not like Prabhupada spaced out. Prabhupada left many instructing gurus, such as devotees in this Sangha and other Sanghas that are pushing Prabhupada forward. And if somebody needs that personal association because they think that they have to have a breathing body, then yes, there's Prabhupada's bona fide disciples that are not taking a claim to being gurus. They're gurus, but they're instructing gurus, not initiating gurus. So Prabhupada left many disciples that are pushing this movement and are speaking clearly. They're not looking for profit, adoration, or distinction. And that's the point. And also, Prabhupada is very present on his pictures. And I challenge anybody to look at a picture of Prabhupada sincerely from your heart and pray to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada will manifest himself. He's already, he says, he's on his pictures. And he's very alive. And that's all I have to say on that point.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Moving forward here, we're moving towards the end of the discussion. Vinkat Prabhu, anything else to be highlighted? I see
there's a question by Nityananda Prabhu, yeah.
I believe Yasoda responded to that. Would you like to further illuminate the issue, Yasoda?
Yeah. With regards to that question, is there any spiritual activities other than Bhuta Shuddhi that one can practice in order to understand it is not the body? Well, for one thing, Prabhupada recommends reading Bhagavad-gītā, specifically chapter 2 between text 11 and 40. That will help. That particular Sanskrit term, Bhuta Shuddhi, this is a practice that is engaged in the deity worship. Before one worship the deity, he has to engage in a specific meditation called Bhuta Shuddhi, which is a purification of the body by thinking of oneself as an eternal spirit soul. There are certain Sanskrit prayers, and there's also called Mangala Shanti, or specific prayers that were recommended by our previous acharyas, as well as the Vishnu Smaranam, to remember the holy name of Lord Vishnu, the position of Lord Vishnu. These are given in a book called the Archan Padati. Before one does the Bhuta Shuddhi, one is to recite certain prayers praising Lord Krishna. These were given by our previous acharyas, such as Gopal Bhatta Goswami, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. With regards to the Mangala Shanti, these are recitation of auspicious prayers to purify the atmosphere. After that, one recites 2 verses. One of them was the verse recited by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Gopi Bhartuhu Padakamalayor Dasa Dasa Nudasaha, that I'm not a Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, like that. I'm an eternal servant of the gopis. So like that, there are specific mantras which are recommended in the Archan Padati to purify the consciousness and understand that I'm not the body, I'm an eternal spirit soul, and I'm trying to render some service by worshiping Krishna like that. So these are just a few points. Then there's another question by Andabhya Mataji, which raises the point. I'm trying to find her question here. Can you please explain a little bit how the creeper punctures the Brahma Jyoti, the Bhaktivedanta creeper? I put on the chat there on your screen 2 different quotations from Srila Prabhupada. One of them is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 22, Text 23. And then there's another one further down, which is given in the Madhya Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chapter 19, Text 153, where Prabhupada explains how the Bhaktilata Bij, Bhaktilata, however, has no shelter in the material world, nor has it shelter in Brahmaloka. Although Brahmaloka is beyond the material world, the Bhaktilata increases until it reaches the spiritual sky where Goloka Vrindavana is situated. And there's a very detailed explanation how the Bhaktilata Bij crosses over the Karana ocean, the causal ocean, like that. So for those of you who can see the answer there, you can read that. And there's also try to contact basically Madhya Lila chapter 19, text 153. So then there's another point by Shreya Mataji. Please share the names of the books Prabhuji mentioned here. Now, I don't know exactly what she's referring to, what book she's referring to here.
Okay.
I think it's about the Archana Paddhati, which you were talking about.
Well, what I'm referring to are different prayers in the Archan Padati, because there's a lot of controversy right now with many devotees with regards to the Archan Padati and the method of offering artik and offering the bhoga to the deities. We do not agree with various interpretations which have come up that they allegedly claim that Prabhupada wanted to change everything at the last year of his manifested presence to start a new process, whatever may be the process that is in other sampradayas or the Gaudiya Math, that is fine. They can do what they like. But Prabhupada indicated a very specific process, which Vishwakarma Prabhu referred to in our last class on Wednesday, with regards to how to offer the bhoga. It has to be offered according to Prabhupada's recommendation. It is offered to the Guru, who offers it to his Guru, again to his Guru, all the way to Lord Chaitanya, all the way to Krishna. It is not that we offer directly to Krishna. There are numerous references and citations by Srila Prabhupada in that regard. In one place, Prabhupada says, Krishna does not accept in this way. It is not that we have to think that the guru enjoys the bhoga and then it cannot be offered. No, that is not like the guru does not enjoy the bhoga. The guru accepts the offering, and it is offered to his guru, all the way to his param guru, all the way to Lord Chaitanya, who offers it to Krishna. Prabhupada described that this is the bona fide proper process of offering bhoga and offering the sequence of artik to the deities. A lot of that was changed due to the living guru mythology that exists in ISKCON, but we don't follow these concoctions. So I hope it helps, Mataji.
Thank you very much, Yaśodā. And I want to thank everyone who is participating in this weekly sadhana program of hearing and chanting with us in Krishna's house of devotion under the guidance of our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. And before we end up, I wanted to remind you all that we will be having Srimad Bhagavatam class again tomorrow morning. We're moving ahead with the in the second chapter of that literature, and the class will start at 10 a.m. with a reading and discussion. And I wanted to also mention that we are working on a magazine, a Hare Krishna magazine, which we're very excited about. We have a group of us who are developing the magazine, and we meet once a week on Thursdays to discuss our plans for continuing the mission of Lord Chaitanya through this instructions of Srila Prabhupada. So the magazine will cover many different topics, all explained by this group from Prabhupada's various writings and teachings to give us a broader understanding. And we're also planning to print it in a variety of languages, not just in the English language. So it's something for us to look forward to being able to distribute to people globally and give them a proper understanding of Prabhupada's teachings for the benefit of every living entity. So if you're interested at all in distributing these books in different parts of the world, I know Vijaya Pandit is in Italy, and then we have people in France and India like that. So if you have any interest in participating in the development of the Hare Krishna magazine, please get a hold of myself or our group, Vinkat or Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu and the other Prabhus that are here. If you have any questions and how you can help to be a part of this revolution of thought, then we're eager to hear from you moving forward. So I want to thank everyone for being a part of our group. It's a very excellent opportunity for all of us to make advancement in the association of like-minded Prabhupada disciples. Vinkat Prabhu, could you please bring forward our wonderful chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra from the 60s? As Jonas Priya explained, Prabhupada's playing the bongo there because they forgot to bring the mridanga. Did it make a difference? No. It's all in the basis of the purity of the pure devotee and his singing of the holy name. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasati Gaur Bhaktivedanta. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Apakrita, toutes les gloires à Srila Prabhupada.
Continue à chanter Hare Krishna, Yaśodā. Hare Krishna.
Vijay Pandit, toutes les glories soient divine grâce à Srila Prabhupada.
Tutte le glorie su di